What's up, my precious little pack, and welcome back to VEGA Conflict. So, the Blindside event's closing tomorrow. I'm just gathering up what little bit of tech I actually want at this point. I've got the two things I majorly wanted. The Destroyer, which I had on the second day, well, in the first 24 hours still, it was like 23 hours, 12 minutes in. But I did unlock it. But something else, the closing event, well, the closing message for the event has gone live. I'll actually show it off here after I'm done with this fight. But it is essentially saying that we're going to be giving up to the VEGA Federation because they're offering assistance. Okay, now, I find that very hilarious because first off, the rebel group has always been at ends with the VEGA Federation. They've always been the primary enemy. They always will be the primary enemy because they want literally you to obey them and do what they want without any back talk, as it could be called. But this is going to be entertaining because it comes up during this month. So during the next month, since Klavic is still gone, are we actually going to get an Altairian Carrier, or are we going to get a VEGA Federation Carrier? Because it just occurred to me that they can completely skip out on producing a carrier-specific overdrive just because of this. So they don't have to think anything up for it or anything like that. And these are just my thoughts on it. But let's show off that message. Planet Destroyer is complete. Those vibrations, I'll show you it here in a second. The vibrations are the Titan drawing energy from the fabric of subspace. Alright, without allies we're finished, but Klavic is gone. The other heralds have distanced themselves from us. VEGA Federation, scenting desperation, offer aid. If, yeah, haha, if, blah 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 blah, they basically want everything we have. And I find this hilarious because, one, every single rebel base, I'm going to point this out real quick, every single rebel base has access to 3 things that could allow every single rebel to produce their own technology. Standing ready. Specifically for the needs of the leader of that outpost. So in my case it would be most likely cruiser-based technology. But what I'm referring to is we have research groups because they're the ones that work at the ship lab, the arms lab, and the tech lab. So why we're turning to the VEGA Federation, not our own scientists that we have working within our labs already, is beyond me. The initial research technology was just to help players get off their feet, but from a standpoint from the storyline, it would actually make sense to take the next event and actually skip on Federation support from VEGA and go after a different route and go after the Rebel controlled and let the Rebels show off that they've had enough, and even against a Planet Destroyer they will bare their teeth and they will fight to the end. And let their scientists show off a very beautiful design they've recently come up with, a carrier mimicking Altairian overdrive technology. And this actually came up because I was actually thinking about it more and more after I saw it last time I logged in. My first thought was, okay, so the VEGA Federation is offering assistance basically for us to turn ourselves in, and all of our land, well, space in this case, to the VEGA Federation. That isn't going to happen, we all know it's not, and we have to wait until the next event. Klavic is currently, as we saw from that post, not in the picture at all. Where else can we get assistance from? Where else can we pull any type of help from? That, again, is another video on its own, but I'm going to include it here. Rhea Dej, who's currently trying to do a certain thing, which is unknown because she still wants to know why a certain person turned Sybil against her. But the production of the Marauder ships was a carbon copy of the Axis fleet, and we still have yet to see any type of new Marauder technology. It's going to be interesting based on what I think is going to happen. I think we're not going to get another normal carrier as we see it. I think we're going to get a mixed carrier, and it's actually going to be a mix that is produced by our scientists from our base for the players, except for we'll have to unlock it in an event, and it may become researchable 2-3 months down the line. But it won't be Altairian, it will have the old school rebel flag, which is... where are you at? Down here. It will have the old school minor rebels sigil on it, just because it can. And I think that it would actually be a good thing for them to do that, because it would show that the scientists that we all have within our outposts are actually doing something after they complete the final research, and they continue to develop technology on their own. They finally caught up and they decided that enough was enough. We need our own technology. That's just my thoughts on what could happen. Another thing that could happen is the unknown disease, as we all know it, that created the unknown from the just about everything that was created by Klavik's father. It may actually play a part in the next carrier event, because we may actually see a complete and total indifference, well, a difference in the event, and we may actually go back to the unknown targets for the next event, because something happens in subspace at that one specific super weapon, which is actually in here. We see it in the background. And something happens at this super weapon that's back here that forces them to intervene, because they feel themselves to be more threatened than any time before. And we fight them in alien-related events for the most part, strikes and stuff like that. But they see the Altairian super weapon as being an even more dangerous threat. But then this brings up another thing, that the unknown aliens actually have planets under their control that no one knew about. They took everything in certain sectors. The sectors we lost effectively is what I'm thinking. And the planet destroyer is literally preparing to be fired off at us to clear this area out, and then it's going to be turned against them. The unknown see it as a threat, and they immediately send whatever force they see necessary to deal with it. Now the force that we meet will actually be a very certain general that we supposedly killed. Well, did kill, but I'm thinking his memories were transferred to a new body and he was improved. He got an upgraded ship and things like that. And this will be the other idea of how we get a different carrier. There's actually 8 ideas that I have right now on how the next event is going to go down, what type of carrier we get. 2 of those 8 ideas actually revolve around actually getting an Altairian carrier. One of which is through the Heralds. The other of which is actually through the Oligarchs, because something goes wrong and his sister decides that she needs assistance because she was on the wrong warpath. And now she needs assistance, and she'll give you their carrier in exchange for assistance. Because VEGA's been very quiet lately, and this brings up, for this portion of it, that they go off and they have their own super weapons that rival the Altairians, and they start warping in, start taking the sectors over, and they start destroying Rebel and Altairian alike, regardless of what actually happens. So the player will be siding with the Oligarchs in the next event just to fight them off. And the idea that continues on for the unknown alien would actually be a fairly interesting one in my eyes, because it would bring the unknowns back into it. But it would also show a little bit more for the storyline behind them, because we still don't know too much about the plague that was created by Owa, however you want to pronounce his name and however you want to say it. But Klavik and his sister's father, and then there was the mention that their father uploaded himself to a planetary network. And that was brought up by his sister in the most recent one, and Klavic refused to accept it, and that's why he left. And that brings up the next point of, is their father in one of the sectors we control on the planets and no one knows it, and she actually knows it, and she's going to destroy said planet just because of it? And if that is the case, we may see a few planets per sector destroyed because it has to match in all the sectors because play and stuff like that. Or this is any number of things, but today I decided, well, let's show off a little bit of the attack, me doing the attacks, stuff like that, and then talk a bit about the overall feel of this event. And let's get off of the ideas that I was talking about, and let's just take a moment to think. How has this event gone so far? Well, so far it's actually been quite interesting, and I'm actually going to jump back to the original briefing of it. Okay. She blamed herself as a hatchling. Yeah, we've already read that. But it starts off with her talking about their father without realizing that she's actually on the comms, because it points it out right here. And it was hilarious, but then she immediately corrects herself and starts talking to Klavic, and she points out that there's a recording that Klavic needs to see, and it was Anwa's last moments as an Altairian. So it goes to show that he got messed up, and he most likely transferred to the planet, or whatever it was, as an unknown alien. And Klavic starts watching the recording, and he just couldn't stop watching it.
VEGA security inactive.
Yeah, right here. He uploaded himself to his consciousness into a network of heavily armed planets. Heavily armed planets. Now, why would you build a planet-destroying weapon in space that's occupied by a group of random people that are literally no threat to you at all? Well, you'd want to prepare your weapon away from any form where it could be destroyed or heavily damaged by the person you're going to destroy. So this brings up what I was talking about earlier of the theory of her actually trying to destroy the planets. And I actually think, like I said, that the planets are actually among our own. They're somewhere hidden. We don't know it, and they're going to activate. You know, we're going to be forced away from the planets for our outposts. We're going to be pushed out into deep space for the outposts, because we can't remain near any of the planets, because any number of them could be armed and be a threat to our own outposts. So we kind of just unanchor and drift away. And he ran away because he thought it was some cunning deception by his sister. Not quite. I have a lot to say about that, and Burr even has his own thoughts and things like that. Yeah, right here, this is where it mentions that he left. Klavic literally jumped in a Cavalier cutter, shot off through a wormhole, and no one's seen him since. And then it goes back to her. Alright, feeble humans, yeah, she's sparing us, blah, 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 blah. She must be sure that the weapon works before turning it against Anwa. So that this is another thing that I thought. Because as I was reading through these, this is an idea I've been bouncing around in my head for a while, and this idea out of the 8 ideas I've come up with actually seems like the most realistic, that she's going to do a 360, well, a 180, and she's going to be the one to give us the carrier, and it's going to be a red carrier, unlike all the blue ships we've had, and as we upgrade it, it'll become a golden red ship, and it will actually take on the form of... It's hard to describe because I actually have a few thoughts of what the ship will look like, but she may do a 180 and turn around to assist us just because of how it is. And she is taking our sectors, though, as a secure buffer against her father's saboteurs. Risk as much as you wish. your efforts are futile, but they do keep her troops sharp. Well, in the players like my case, we do more than keep her troops sharp. We murder them in space, take their technology, replicate it, and then turn it against her even more. But the more I actually read this, the more it actually seems like in the next event, since Klavic is gone, with the introduction of VEGA, I have a feeling that VEGA's had more of a hand in this than anything's happened, and they're actually going to come in to try and intervene because somehow Anwa has control over the VEGA Federation and we just don't know it. And he's going to force us to work with the oligarchs temporarily while we deal with new VEGA Federation fleets like nothing we've seen before. You know, their technology, they advanced far beyond even that of the Altairians. Their ships could be a mutation of the Altairian ships and the unknown. I was thinking it could be an insane thing, but from how it's shaping up, it actually could turn out that way, especially the more that you think about it. But these are just my thoughts on it. What are all of your thoughts on it? What do all of you think about the overall story of the Altairian faction so far as they've progressed? And the Planet Destroyer is complete. The vibrations from the Titan, yeah. We cede all of our territory and hand a long list of key rebels into their custody, including you and me, and we both know that wouldn't happen because that would be the end of VEGA conflict. And even he says it's an unacceptable choice. So, in my eyes, we may actually wind up, like I said before, working with his sister. While Klavic is off doing whatever in wherever space, in whatever sector. And I actually think it'll be interesting if it does turn out the way I think it will, because we'll wind up with an oligarch carrier, but then that'll bring up a brand new war. It will be the oligarchs and the rebels working against VEGA, well, the Federation, and Anwa in his like supreme form, all-powerful planet thing. And what I think is actually going to happen in the next event, I'm literally going to say exactly what I think is going to happen right now. My best guess is, for the event that I actually think, is that the Planet Destroyer is going to be destroyed. Her chance of actually stopping Anwar are going to be utterly taken from her by VEGA and their superior ships. They're just going to come out of nowhere and just utterly decimate, unlike what the miners have been doing so far, and just leave her and her fleets limping, and then they require assistance, and Burr, seeing it as a chance of opportunity to get more technology from the Altairians, decides, well, let's go this way and deal with VEGA later, because they're targeting the oligarchs and their super weapon at the time and literally leaving us, the miners, to be. But then that brings up the next point of the next events in Tier 7.5 and Tier 8. We may actually see the return of the rebels, because at this point I'm pretty sure our scientists have to have thought of something, because we had Rhea Dage and she brought us the Axis ships, and their technology was what? It was the harmonic boosts. And it could be exceptionally interesting to see how it acts in a fight and things like that. But again, those are just my thoughts on how it actually is. It could be any number of ways, and nobody knows for sure, aside from Kixai, but we all know how quiet they are for the most part about the future of VEGA. And I saw a post on the forum about an hour ago. Someone wanted to do the same thing I did, except for they beat me to it. They asked if there was any sneak peeks or anything out about the Altairian Carrier. And even I am more and more curious about the Carrier as the time draws by. And now that there's a chance that it may not be Altairian, that's going to be a bummer, because I was actually looking forward to the Carrier with an overdrive, and a lot of people have guessed at what the overdrive could have been plenty of times, and someone else brought up the same one that a few other people have brought up, and actually would make sense on the Carrier, and that is a built-in type of elite squadron. It launches its squadrons and they attack a target for so long and they become activated in a superior way. An example, they get increased damage per second or increased health, and I was actually thinking that they get neither, and they get some type of shield a light recharging shield on the fighters, because when I actually think about it, in most other space games, whenever a carrier launches small ships, they either have armor to rely on, or they have some kind of energy shield to protect themselves. And I actually would like to see an energy shield, and I would also like to see an oligarch carrier, just because it would be nice to mix it up a bit. But I'm going to end the video by attacking one last target, triggering base defense, and literally just having a little bit of fun. But I hope you all have enjoyed my thoughts and what I expect to happen, or what my guesses are at what will happen in the future of VEGA. Well, for the next month anyways. As for the Altairian Carrier, I actually believe it will look like a mixture of the Paladin and possibly one of their ships. I actually think it may look like a larger variant of the Paragon, except for have wing squadrons. Well, not wing squadrons, the actual squadrons that launch from carriers that we know right now. And since we can effectively count out that it won't be able to use drones, because even now when we select the drones from our base, we actually cannot equip drones on anything other than our Axis carrier. But what do all of you think about all of it? Do you think that it will go down the way that I've said, or if you actually have an entirely different idea, share it with me, because I actually am curious as to what all of you think about that. Do you think the VEGA Federation is, as I said, under the control of Anwa, or that he has control of some aspect of VEGA that no one even realizes? Things like that. But I really would like to hear you guys' feedback on this idea, to find out what you guys think, or any of the potential ideas. And if you guys actually want to hear the other ideas I had, because I did say that I had 8, which I do, let me know and I'll actually make individual videos for each one that specify and focus on each of the ideas. But that's going to be it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. And as always, I'll see you later.